Silver Pines Estates was the kind of neighborhood where everyone's lawn was trimmed just right, every mailbox matched the next, and the sidewalks sparkled after weekly pressure washes. The towering wrought iron gates at the entrance weren't just for show. They stood like silent sentinels guarding secrets that even the HOA board dared not whisper aloud. Jessica Langford, a newly divorced woman in her early 40s, moved into the community after inheriting the modest but charming house from her late Aunt Margaret. The house sat on Elm Ridge Drive, tucked between homes owned by retirees and one overly curious family with 3 kids and a drone. Jessica, used to apartment living and unbothered neighbors, was surprised when she received a welcome packet the size of a college textbook. Inside was the HOA handbook, 132 pages long, complete with diagrams, fines, bylaws, and something called the Covenant Compliance Code. "Welcome to the neighborhood," said Deborah Kingsley, the HOA president, with a tight smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She handed Jessica a casserole she hadn't cooked herself and pointed at a flagpole in Jessica's front yard. "That'll need to come down. Not in compliance with Section 9A of the Visibility Ordinance." Jessica nodded politely, even though she had no clue what that meant. Odd encounters. Within her first week, Jessica had already racked up 2 warning notices. One for planting petunias, not listed on the approved seasonal flora guide. Another for leaving her trash bins out 20 minutes past the designated retraction time. At first, she brushed it off. It was a quirky neighborhood, she figured. But then came the drone. Late one night, she heard a soft buzzing sound. Peeking out her window, she saw it hovering, red lights blinking, as it recorded footage of her backyard. The next morning, a new warning was posted. Unauthorized garden sculpture. Immediate removal required. It was a single small gnome. She began to suspect someone was watching her, too closely. The Whispering Wall. Jessica found her first real friend in Daniel, a widower in his 60s who lived across the street. He was quiet, observant, and seemingly on the HOA's bad side for installing wind chimes. "They don't like people who don't blend in," he said one morning while sipping coffee on his porch. "Your aunt, she didn't blend either." Jessica leaned in. "What do you mean?" He gave her a long look. "Did you know Margaret was on the HOA board? That she tried to dissolve it last year?" Jessica blinked. "What?" She believed something was wrong here. Said there was a secret clause, buried deep in the original founding documents from the 1970s, that gave the HOA more than just regulatory power. Something about ownership rights after death. Margaret's warning. Later that evening, Jessica dug through her aunt's old boxes in the attic. Amid old cookbooks and church flyers, she found a leather-bound journal. Inside were pages and pages of Margaret's handwritten notes, detailing strange incidents over the past 2 years. Homeowners vanishing after foreclosure notices. Surveillance vans disguised as pest control trucks. A neighbor's pet found poisoned after an argument with Deborah. The last entry chilled her to the bone. "If anything happens to me, it won't be an accident. Look behind the garden shed. Don't trust the board. Especially not Deborah." Jessica raced to the backyard, heart pounding, flashlight in hand. Behind the shed, buried beneath loose gravel and a piece of plywood, she found a rusted tin box. Inside, a USB drive and an old photo. The photo was of a secret meeting, dated 1981, showing current board members, looking oddly unchanged. Almost exactly the same. Had they not aged? Or was it a coincidence? She plugged in the USB. Inside was a folder labeled Silver Pines, the original charter. Do not share. Before she could open it, her lights flickered. A buzz hummed outside. The drone was back, closer this time. And behind it, a figure stood at the edge of her lawn, staring at her window. Watching. Jessica barely slept that night. Every creak of the wooden floor, every flicker of light outside, made her jump. The drone had vanished, but the sense of being watched lingered like a damp fog. She clutched the USB tightly, uncertain whether to open the files or burn them. But her curiosity won. The charter revelation. The next morning, Jessica took the USB to Daniel's house. His old laptop didn't have internet, which made it perfect for viewing sensitive files. Inside the USB was a scanned document titled Silver Pines Charter, Founding Authority and Permanent Custodial Clause, 1973. As Jessica and Daniel read through the pages, the horrifying truth began to surface. The HOA wasn't just a group of residents managing neighborhood harmony. It had legal backing from a private governance model developed during the Cold War, meant to test community obedience and controlled surveillance. More chillingly, a permanent custodial clause allowed the board to seize properties under the guise of noncompliance, and in some cases, take custody of the homeowner if deemed mentally unfit. Daniel's hands shook. This isn't just unconstitutional, it's criminal. Jessica asked, why hasn't anyone exposed them? He exhaled slowly. Because those who try disappear. A pattern of silence. Jessica and Daniel started digging deeper. Over 24 homes in Silver Pines had changed ownership under strange circumstances, most after repeated HOA violations. Several homeowners were listed as relocated for medical reasons, but had never turned up anywhere again. Jessica tried contacting one former homeowner's sister through social media. Hours later, her power went out. Then her phone, her internet, everything. She walked outside and noticed a black SUV idling at the corner. No logo, tinted windows. It drove away when she looked directly at it. The board's invitation. The following morning, Jessica found a cream-colored envelope taped to her door. Inside was a formal letter. Dear Ms. Langford, you are cordially invited to a private HOA council meeting tonight at 9 p.m. at the community clubhouse. Attendance is not optional. Daniel warned her not to go, but she knew if she didn't, they'd come for her anyway. The clubhouse confrontation. The clubhouse, usually lit up for yoga classes and bake sales, was dark save for a single light above the entrance. Jessica walked in, fists clenched around the USB now tucked inside her coat pocket. Inside sat 5 board members, including Deborah Kingsley. All dressed in black. All waiting. Jessica, Deborah said smoothly. We're disappointed. Your aunt made the same mistake. Jessica raised her voice. You've been illegally detaining and disappearing homeowners. I have proof. Deborah smiled, not the fake neighborly kind, but a cold, reptilian grin. You think this is about gardens and paint colors? Silver Pines was built for a purpose. You inherited more than a house. You inherited your aunt's position, her rebellion, and her consequences. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The room filled with a low hum, and from a side door, a man in a lab coat entered, wielding what looked like a tranquilizer gun. Jessica ran. Escape and exposure. Daniel had been waiting outside with his truck running. They drove straight to a friend of his, a retired journalist named Leah, who owed him a favor. She helped them upload the files and documents from the USB onto multiple drives, which were then sent to reporters, lawyers, and a YouTube whistleblower channel. By morning, everything was out in the open. The video titled Secret Government Experiment Disguised as HOA went viral. Federal agents arrived at Silver Pines the same week. 6 months later, Silver Pines Estates is now under federal investigation. The board members have been arrested under charges including unlawful detention, misuse of authority, and conspiracy. Jessica still lives in her aunt's house, but the flags fly freely now, gnomes smile proudly on lawns, and the new HOA president is Daniel. Jessica started her own blog, Behind the Gates, documenting HOAs that go too far. And just sometimes, late at night, she still hears a drone buzzing overhead. But this time, she's not afraid.